In this video I show how to make a sand-coated diorama base and how the pigment spreads when diluted with water and how poorly it sticks to slippery surface. Also how to make a pigment stick with fixer to a slippery surface as well. We also look at the difference in shade between the pigment dissolved in fixer and the water. After that, we look at how to achieve a successful and realistic result when two different colored pigments are put on top of each other. I wanted to make a realistic and durable base for my diorama project, so I decided to use XPS insulation board and sand as the main materials. I also wanted to add some rocks in every corner to create some contrast and interest. Here are the steps I followed to create the base. First I measured and cut the XPS board to fit the size and shape of my diorama scene. I used utility knife and ruler to make clean and straight cuts. To make the rocks, I cut out 4 pieces of styrofoam in different shapes and sizes. I used a steel brush to carve out the grooves and cracks of the surface of the styrofoam. I glued the rocks to the corners of the board with hot glue. I made sure to align them with the frame. I applied thin layer of spray glue over the entire surface of the styrofoam. This helped to seal the foam and prevent it from melting when I applied paint or other materials later. I sprinkled some coarse sand over the glue while it was still wet. This created a rough and rocky texture on the styrofoam. I shook off any excess sand and let the glue dry completely. I used a hair dryer to speed up the drying process, but I was careful not to overheat the foam. And so far I was very happy with the result of my diorama base. Next I made a mixture of AK Interactive Rusty Ground pigment and water, which I then brushed over the entire diorama base. The pigment sticks very well to sand, but not to slippery insulation board surface. Here is a little example how poorly the water mixed pigment sticks to the slippery surface. However, there is a solution to the problem that leads to the best result. Sprinkle the pigment with brush directly from the jar onto the slippery surface and dab it with fixer to make it wet. By dabbing, the pigment solidifies in place, and when it dries, it forms a realistic looking very fine grained surface. The fixed and water mixed pigments have a shade of difference. The pigment fixed with fixer becomes darker than the one mixed with water. Take this account when planning the pigmentation. Next I used natural sienna pigment from Vallejo. But first, a warning example of what happens when you try to achieve a realistic look with water mixed pigment, so let's take a look at that. First I added little bit pigment in the water and mixing, then spreading it with a brush over the reddish pigment. Now let's see how well this went. The purpose of this natural sienna is to add a little normal sand color so that the base does not become too monochrome. I gave this a little hair dryer and the result is here, where the stones look more like they are covered with wet sand. Not good at all, not at all. Before the next attempt, I paint everything again with water mixed rusty ground pigment once more. Now a new attempt, and let's put natural sienna by sprinkling it on the dry surface and then dabbing fixer on top so that the grains stay in place. And let's take a look at the result now. Notice first how the red color of the corner stones became darker with the fixer than the bottom water mixed pigment that has not been treated with fixer. But how is the sand? And indeed, the yellowish sand is now like sand and looks very realistic. I must say that. Alright, that was today's tutorial. I hope you liked this video and it was useful to you. If you like it, give a thumbs up, if not, thumbs down. And if you want to see more interesting videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. My name is Ville and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.